There was a time when these legends were still creating the moments we now call history. These photographs take us back there, to the people, the stories, and the era that made rock unforgettable.
No one knows what it's like to be the bad man.
In 1974, Elton John joined John Lennon in the studio, adding piano, organ, and harmony vocals to Whatever Gets You Through the Night. Elton was so confident in the record that he bet Lennon it would reach #1. Lennon promised that if it did, he would join Elton on stage. The single hit #1, and Lennon kept his word at Madison Square Garden in what became his last major concert appearance. Madame Tussauds had brought several hundred glass eyes to Twickenham Studios, while new Beatles wax figures were being prepared. The staff needed to find an exact match for each Beatle. During a break in filming, George Harrison picked up 2 of the samples and held them over his own eyes. For a moment, the pieces meant for a wax figure became a perfect joke for the camera. After the final show of Queen's British tour with Mott the Hoople, Queen brought a cake backstage. The icing read, "Thanks, from Queen." There were no knives or plates nearby, so Mott keyboard player Morgan Fisher tore off a piece and threw it. Freddie Mercury and Roger Taylor quickly joined in, turning a thank you gift into a backstage cake fight. Led Zeppelin were still flying toward Detroit when their next show was already sold out. All 16,500 tickets for Olympia Stadium reportedly disappeared in 4 hours after a local FM disc jockey announced the concert. There was no usual advertising campaign behind it. For Led Zeppelin in 1975, one announcement on the radio was enough to fill an arena. By the time Woodstock opened, it had already stopped functioning like an ordinary ticketed festival. The arriving crowd had overwhelmed the perimeter fences and ticket booths, making ticket collection impossible. Organizers opened the gates and let people in for free before the music began. One of rock's most famous paid events became legendary, partly because it could no longer be controlled. The Beatles ended their Mad Day Out photo shoot at Paul McCartney's home in Cavendish Avenue. In his garden stood a geodesic dome he had built as a meditation platform. Martha, Paul's sheepdog, joined them for the photographs and immediately took over the foreground. The result is one of the strangest and warmest group portraits of the Beatles' final years. When Michelle Phillips first saw Jimi Hendrix at Monterey Pop, his guitar-burning finale shocked her. Just a few weeks later, at the Hollywood Bowl, she saw a different side of him. Phillips later said she had come to love Hendrix completely, remembering him as lovely, funny, and a gentleman. This photograph catches that fast change, from astonishment to genuine affection. Paul Saltzman arrived at Maharishi Mahesh Yogi's ashram in Rishikesh as a fellow visitor, not as a member of the press. Reporters and professional photographers were barred, but the Beatles allowed Saltzman to photograph them freely. That is why his pictures feel less staged than most celebrity photographs from the period. He was allowed into their daily life, not simply admitted for an assignment. Motorcycles followed Bob Dylan's limousine along England's M1 during his European tour in 1966. At the time, it was simply another sign of the pressure surrounding him. But the photograph gained an unsettling meaning later that summer, when Dylan suffered his own motorcycle accident near Woodstock, New York. After that crash, he disappeared from touring for 8 years. David Bowie was in Santa Fe filming The Man Who Fell to Earth when these photographs were taken for a Sunday Times assignment. He was already living inside the strange, isolated world of the character he was playing. The images were made during the shoot,
But newspaper readers did not see them until March 1976, months after Bowie had left Santa Fe behind. Mick Taylor was photographed at Villa Nelcote while it served as the Rolling Stones recording base in the south of France. The setting looks almost relaxed in photographs, but the band were deep inside the long and difficult sessions that became Exile on Main Street. Released the following year, the album would turn the villa into one of the most mythologized houses in rock history. When the Runaways landed at Heathrow in 1976, people were already calling them a punk band. Sherry Curry later said the group did not really understand what punk meant at first. It was only after reaching Europe and encountering the scene firsthand that they understood the label being attached to them. This airport arrival came just before that discovery. "9 years before this photograph was taken, Ian Hunter was asked to explain Mott the Hoople's invented word, automobile. His answer was unexpectedly precise. Imagine Lou Reed walking up and down 8th Avenue every day of his life. In 1982, Reed was photographed beside an 8th Avenue subway entrance. The later image makes Hunter's strange description feel almost like a prediction. Lemmy had seen Jimi Hendrix perform at close range, so when he later compared Hendrix with Eddie Van Halen, he was speaking from his own memory of both eras. He admired Eddie's playing, but Hendrix remained the standard by which he measured every guitarist. Lemmy's verdict was blunt. However remarkable Eddie was, Hendrix had never been equaled. Alan Tannenbaum's assignment had originally been a portrait session with Yoko Ono alone. The following day, at the Dakota, he asked whether John Lennon might join the photographs. Yoko called upstairs, Lennon came down, and the three walked into Central Park. What began as a Yoko profile unexpectedly became a quiet portrait of John and Yoko together.